What's going on, everybody? My name's GiraffeAnatomy, and this is another Smite Quick God Guide. Today, the god we will be looking at is Charybdis, the ceaseless whirlpool, Scylla's little buddy. And what we're going to do is we're going to get into some jungle practice. I'm going to show you her abilities, her passive, kind of how they play into each other, and hopefully, by the end of this video, the goal is you can take Charybdis into a jungle / arena conquest game and know how to play her effectively and know what her abilities do, so you're able to use her to her full potential, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to get into jungle practice. We're going to choose Charybdis. We will be on our way. So Charybdis is a hunter in Smite. That means she does physical damage, and she has ranged basic attacks. So her main way to do damage to enemies is with those basic attacks, and you can build basically attack speed and crit and all these different items to make that better. But she does have some abilities that really play into that and that can be really useful for her as well. So what I'm going to do is I will level everything up here real quick. And what we'll do is we'll start with her passive, and then we will get into all of her other abilities here in a second. So with Scylla's passive, it's called Raging Tides. Charybdis' attack speed increases as her tide increases. Successful basic attack hits increase her tide. And Charybdis deals less damage with item effect procs. So what does this all mean? First of all, just to let you guys know, when Charybdis auto attacks, she has a unique auto attack chain. What do I mean by that? When most gods auto attack that are hunters, they basically have this one basic attack, right? And they can do that as fast as they can. But if you notice, Charybdis actually shoots out 3 little projectiles on her third basic attack. This makes Charybdis unique because she has those little 3 ones. And those little 3 things proc extra item effects most of the time. So this is why, to balance that, the second part here that says Charybdis deals less damage with item effect procs, it's because her basic attack chain isn't just 1, 2, 3. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So you can normally get out like 5 autos in the same time that another hunter would get out 3 autos, right? So it would make her super overpowered. And when it says item effect procs, that's things like Odysseus Bow's proc. That's things like Capsize, right? On basic attacks, deal physical damage equal to 3% of the target's maximum health, right? Because you're getting 5 autos out, right? So to curb that, they basically reduce that when it comes to the item effect procs and things like that, right? So yeah, and it just deals less damage with item effect procs with things like Death's Toll, right? Death's Toll is a really good starter on her because its passive is basically healing you. It restores health and mana for your basic attacks, right? So with this, it's a really good starter on Charybdis. It's almost a no-brainer with her just because she procs so well, provides her a lot of sustain in lane, all of those things. So we'll talk a little bit about items later, but because they change a lot, right? And some things become meta and some things fall out of meta. But in general, with Scylla, you will get utilization out of this. Now, just because it reduces damage doesn't mean don't build these items, right? Actually, Odysseus Bow is really good on her. Even Kins is good on her. Even though she does less damage with them, she's still proccing it like 5 times, right? With her basic attack chain versus like 3 times that a normal hunter would normally have, right? So that's one thing to note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is unique. And then you can also spread, see how those spread out as you kind of go. So you have to be a little on it when, you know, autoing with these, because they're all considered like little separate projectiles, right? So you can miss, right? 1, 2, 3. See how I kind of like missed one because I like went a little too far? You can do that with her. It is something you have to get used to, but once you get the hang of it, it becomes like really cool and really fun to play Charybdis because of that. Now, as you noticed when I was attacking people, let's talk about the other part of her passive, her tide meter, right? As you basic attack, her tide meter goes up. This is going to play into other parts of her kit because 2 of her abilities use a tide meter. Her basic attacks and her 1 refill her tide meter, right? We'll talk about her 1 in a second. But once you get to max tide, right, you see that there? I'm at 1.49 attack speed now. I think I started at like 1.28 or something. So you basically get that 10% plus 0.75% per level, right? Attack speed. And then Yeah, it basically goes over the item damage reduction. It reduces it by 30%. It's still good. That means you can still build things, and I'll show you what Odysseus bow and Kins and stuff looks like on her later. But then your base attacks are basically refilling 2% of your tide on hit, right? So as you do that, and I'm just going to use this ability real quick because it uses up tide. So I'm going to just show you again. See how I'm at 1.4% attack speed? Because I just used a bunch of my tide. And I got to build it back up. And as my tide builds back up, you will see my attack speed in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm at 1.44 now, 1.47. As you basic attack more and you get to the full tide, you will get more attack speed. So she has a built-in increase in attack speed. That is her passive, right? So let's get into her abilities now, and we'll talk about how they kind of all play in together with like the tide and everything too. So Charybdis's first ability is called Spike Shot. Charybdis reveals the maw as it fires large spikes for a short duration, dealing basic attack damage. These projectiles pass through minions and are wider and faster than normal basic attacks. On hitting enemy gods and walls, the spikes splinter, dealing additional damage. One thing to note about this is that it passes through minions. So this is like Rama's one, where his astral arrows will go through things, and this allows you to create really good spacing when you're laning early, right? You're able to use your one, you're able to hit all the minions in a row with it to clear them, and even the enemy gods behind them. So normally they can hide behind their minions when it comes to basic attacks and jockeying in lane. You're able to kind of go through that and not only do damage to the minions, but the enemy god behind it, putting and exerting pressure on them. I'll show you what that looks like in a second here, but basically, this is what it looks like, right? When you take it out, you have 4 seconds to shoot, and you have this big, nice, fat, wide ability, and all your basic attacks, it's treated as basic attacks still, which is great because it's still going to proc everything that you want on it. They're just fatter basic attacks, so it's easier to hit things, and then the splinters happen, right? So first of all, the minion damage, right? On hitting enemy gods and walls, spikes splinter, dealing additional damage. So you'll see the splinter damage down here, so it deals extra damage, and then the minion damage, obviously as you level it up, it will do more damage and everything like that. But see this is basically the splinters, right? If I'm hitting a wall with it, I'll show you what it looks like when hitting an enemy god too. But that is the one, right? It's a nice fat like basic attack that's easier to hit enemy gods, right? And then you basically for 4 seconds can hold down left click and hit somebody with it, and you can see I'm aiming a little to the right and I'm still hitting that enemy god, right? So it'll hit them, and then when it hits an enemy god, it splinters off from him, so everything else in the area will be getting kind of some extra damage from the splinters. You see the splinter damage down there, right? And then this also adds to your tide meter, right? So if I use this again real quick, I'll show you what that is in a second. If I have this, it's adding to your tide meter, right? So this is a really good ability, whether you're basic attacking or using your one, you're able to build up your tide and get to that max attack speed as fast as possible, right? So that's the basics of this. I wanted to show you kind of how to use it with minions and laning, right? So this is going to be like your main clear most of the time. You're going to come up here, and you're able to use your one and go through all the minions, right? And deal damage to all of them at once. Now, the best part about this is, like I said, you can exert pressure with it. The enemy is behind like their archers in the back a little bit further. So when this wave comes back in, and you want to exert a little bit of pressure, you normally can by hitting one and then coming up a little bit, and see like they might be like right behind there, and now you're hitting them with like you know, you're going through the minions and you're still going to be able to hit them with like the tail end of this ability. So it allows you to put a lot of pressure in lane and hide kind of like through some minions, and then kind of come up and go through theirs and still hit them. So you're clearing way faster than they are. You're still doing damage to them. It's very oppressive. It feels like, you know, like I said, Rama's one is how it feels a lot, or like X-Ball with his bolos and stuff like that. It's very oppressive to try and like stand in wave and jockey against something like this when they can go through your minions and still hit you, right? So think of that when you're in your laning phase and everything like that. Let's talk about Charybdis 2. Charybdis 2 is called Capsize. Charybdis absorbs water from around her before firing a quick blast from the maw. Enemies are hit by rapidly decaying, slow, and physical protection debuff. This ability can be channeled for longer, consuming tide on fire, to become wider strengthening the debuff effects, and deal more damage. So first of all, one thing you need to know, you do damage, but then you can scale it up by doing like maximum, right? So basically it's a channeling ability. This is what it looks like, and you can see how it starts like kind of in the middle and then it goes to the edges there, right? So when I do that, I'm charging it. Now if I fire it before it gets fully charged, it won't consume my tide, right? If I do it when it's fully charged, it will consume my tide. So if I just do this, right? It consumes less tide. Sorry about that. It consumes less tide than if you have it fully charged. And if you have it fully charged, it will consume, I think, what is it, 40% tide? Yeah, up to 40% tide consumed. So the longer you have it charged, the more tide you're consuming. And the more you have it charged, the more of a slow and a physical protection debuff it will apply, up to 40%, right? So the duration for these debuffs, 40% slow on max tide, will last 4 seconds on max tide. So if you want the most use out of it, charge it all the way. Make sure you have enough tide for it, right? If you don't have enough tide, it won't charge all the way. But if I just do a quick full tide, and you can charge it and run around like this, by the way. And so this is a great way to engage, right? If you kind of have it fully charged and you walk into a team fight, you can then fire it, and now see how slow he is right now, and he has the protection debuff. You can tell. So for 4 seconds, he's going to be much more vulnerable, much more slow. Enables you kind of walk up to him and just beat on him, right? So you see 70, 72, 72, and then 29 on my little ones. You'll see real quick. 78, 76, 30, 30, 74, 73. See, so it like it says in here, it says it's hit by a rapidly decaying slow and physical protection debuff. So at the beginning, I'm going to be doing more damage than I normally would because I'm doing the protection shred, right? So you'll see I normally hit 72, 72, 29 at a full tide, right? If I start at 78, 76, the 30s, 73, 29s, so now I'm back, right? So you'll see it will decay a little bit, but you're able to get that really good burst damage. And it's a good idea to sort of like go from this, right, into your one, and then just start like nailing them, right? Nailing them with the splinters makes it easy to hit on them. You'll rebuild your tide pretty fast and stuff like that. And it lasts like around the same amount as that like protection debuff does, right? 4 seconds. Stuff like that. This lasts the 4 seconds on max tide too. One other thing to note is if I hit them early, right, with it, it will not slow them as much. You can see how much like he did not slow there, right? So it's definitely way weakened, but you can still use it as a quick little burst ability if you need to. Basically, you either double tap the ability or you left click, right, to get it off. Either way. So it will still do the damage to them, right? It just, you won't get that 40% extra scaling and stuff like that on everything. And I think I kind of wanted to do like a, yeah, okay. I'm just mashing this real quick. I just want to see if I can get it to go off when my tide isn't up all the way, just to show you guys real quick what it looks like. Okay, so now I don't have tide anymore. So when you don't have tide and you use your 2, I will show you real quick. It will not charge all the way, right? You're basically stuck at the very beginning of this cone. It's not going to provide those that max extra scaling and stuff like that, right? So it's basically going to be as basic as it can possibly be, which will just be like doing the damage, right? So let me refill my tide meter again real quick. Using my 1 and my 2. And while I do that, all right. So once you get around like 50, right, you want at least 40% to be able to fully charge your tide. Once we have the tide, right, see how now it goes all the way. So you need to make sure you have enough tide to utilize it effectively when you're doing this. And the same thing, it's doing the same damage no matter how much tide you do, right? Whether you have none or you have the full 40%. The only thing that's scaling with it, it's not the damage. It is just the slow and the physical protection debuff, right? So yeah. Let's get into her third ability, right? Charybdis' third ability is really good. This makes her a very safe hunter. This makes her like a really hard to deal with in lane, and like very safe when she's trying to get ganked and stuff. So it's called Whirlpool Form. Charybdis dives into a whirlpool she creates, expanding and revealing the terrifying maw. Charybdis moves faster and deals damage to enemies caught in the area. This ability can be amplified by toggling it again and spending 30% tide. Doing so increases the damage dealt and the movement speed, as well as providing extra damage and a knockup on exiting. While submerged, Charybdis is untargetable and immune to damage for up to 3 seconds. The big things you need to know about this is when she goes into her 3, and this is what it looks like. When she goes into this 3, she can move around. She becomes untargetable. So she becomes immune. She's literally like off of the map. Nothing can hit her. Nothing can hurt her. Nothing can stun her. She can't get global ulted. She can't be targeted. She doesn't exist basically for these like what is it, like 3 seconds? More than 3 seconds, right? So yeah, while she's in this form, yeah, it's 3 seconds. So it's like a 3 seconds like beads and ages almost. As long as you don't get caught beforehand, right? If you can get under, you'll be safe for these 3 seconds. The other thing is if you fire the ability again, so you're gonna press your 3 to get into it at first. If you do it again, its effects are amplified, right? It's one thing people don't realize, and they're like, how do you get the knockup? How do you do this? Well, you press the ability again, and you will be faster, you will do more damage to people that you're under, and you will get a knockup once you're out of it as well. So one other thing, when you're under it, and it's normal, right? 24, 24, 24, you're doing damage, and then when you come up, that's basically all that happens, right? That was it just being normal. Now when I fire it again, I will show you what the amplified version does, right? So you would press the ability twice, right? So it's 1 and then 2. Now it's 48, 48, 48, and you'll see how I knock them up when I come out of it. So that's what happens when you press the ability twice, right? You need to press it that second time to make sure you get into the amplified version, and everything like that. So basically, you have to have the tide to amplify it, right? It ties into the tide again. You can use it without tide, but if you don't have the tide, see how I'm mashing it? See how it's kind of like red down here? It will not go. It will not become amplified if you don't have the tide, and it's 30% tide at least, right? So you need to make sure you have this tide built up. That's why it's really important to just be autoing things like as much as possible, building up that tide so you can use your abilities to their maximum effect, right? Always have this tide built up. But if you do have enough tide, right, you can press it twice, 48, right? And now I'm going to knock them up. It gives you a lot of really great setup potential. If you're trying to get into a team fight and you want to knock everybody up, you can do that. It's a safe way to like enter team fights, although it is your only escape ability. If you do go in with this, it's going to be hard to get back out. You kind of want to do it when you're either running away or you want to kill somebody, right? But it is a great runaway tool as well. You amplify the damage, but you also amplify your movement speed when you hit it twice. The amplified movement speed is like crazy. Like I'm at 431, right? When I go into this, I'm at 494. When I press it again, I'm at 542 movement speed. So you can zoom and get away from a lot of stuff with this ability. Scylla's main escape. Remember, it is basically like your form of like Aegis and beads. If you see some shady shiz going down, right, and you want to dodge it, like you go into your Whirlpool and you run away. That's basically what you do with Charybdis, and it makes her really effective. And then if you do get like beads and Aegis on her, it's like a whole second layer, right? You can always beads, then get back down into here and then run away, and you're immune to damage during that time and stuff. So yeah, makes her incredibly safe. And like I said, you can use it to chase somebody down. So say you have been autoing them, right? And you want to chase them down. If you have your tide built up enough, you can use it to get that final kill on them, right? So you're like up chasing them down, they're getting away, get under, amplify it, and then you can pop it early if you want. I'll show you that in a second as well. But you can chase them down, knock them up, get some free hits on them and stuff like that. You can utilize this, like if you use your 3, once you pop out of it, you can use your 2, get the protection debuff and the slow for chase down, right? Like either of those is fine. But you can use this 1, 2, and then right click to pop it up early, right? So you would do like 3-3 to get it to the amplified version, and then you right click as fast as possible, and that'll do like a nice quick knock up. If you don't care about like the damage of being under them, and you don't care about any of that stuff, very quickly you can knock them up if you just mash it real quick, like 3-3. Whoop. Wow. Not a good Smite player, guys. But yes, maybe don't press it as fast as I did. Wait for it to register. But you can do 3-3, knock them up, right? So yeah, that's it. Just firing a little bit faster. So now let's talk about Charybdis's ultimate ability. Charybdis's ultimate ability is called the Maw Hungers. It hungers. Charybdis reveals her true nature, becoming immune to crowd control for the next 6 seconds, and gaining movement speed. She may make one powerful attack as the maw charges forward, damaging and carrying back enemies hit before chomping down, damaging again and stunning. If she kills an enemy god with this attack, she gains another 6 seconds and may attack again. So this, if you've ever played Scylla, is kind of like that, right? First of all, this is why Scylla is such a safe god to play. Not only does she have like the immunity with her 3, but this is another CC immunity. That means if you're in this form, you can't be beadsed. You're like, you can get out of beads, right? So if Ares chains you and then you go in ult, which I'll show you what that is right now. So you ult, see how she's glowing? That means she's CC immune. And this is your targeter the whole time. She has 6 seconds to make an attack, and anyone in that initial like run up, right, was going to get pushed back. And then anybody in that sort of fan looking target area is going to get chomped on. So you can choose to either push somebody back and chomp. If you get somebody pushed back, they automatically get chomped. Or you can chomp somebody even without that, right? So if I get into my ult, I can just hit somebody with the chomp. They're not going to get pushed back, but you will do the damage to them, right? Get on over there. Reset my cooldown. If you hit them with the push back, right, you're going to get the chomp as well, right? So if I do this, I can maybe get 2 of them. Yeah, I got 2 of them to get pushed back, right? So you can get multiple enemies with it, and if you kill a god with the chomp, you get to fire it again. So it's like Scylla's ability, where if you hit somebody, you can fire it again. So you can actually get like a pretty good chain. You can hit somebody, you can actually hit like 2 or 3 people with it, chomp, one of them dies, hit him again, chomp again, another one dies, hit him again, right? It's like, so you can get like a lower health guy to start your chain and eventually chomp somebody like 3 times and they were at full health, but after chomping them 3 times, you know, you end up killing them and stuff like that. So this is another great ability that you can use to escape and run away. You get 35% increased movement speed, so it's a good escape tool too. If you're in trouble as Charybdis and for some reason your 3's down, right, you can just pop this and be like, peace y'all, like you're fast, right? You're pretty fast in it. That's how you miss it. If you don't hit them with the like the runway portion of it, right, the straight portion to push them back and chomp it, and they're not in that target area, like you will miss it, right? The other thing about this is one thing you need to know is that if you can't like fire it if it's in a wall, like I can fire it there because like a little sliver was out, but if you're pushing it into a wall, like be very careful when trying to fire this like in the jungle and stuff, because you're gonna run into this issue and it's very annoying. You see how the targeter becomes like gray instead of gold? Like I literally can't fire it if the chomp area, if like the whole bit of the chomp area is like in a wall or something like that. It won't let you do it. You have to come out like just a little bit. So just keep that in mind when you're firing this ability with her ultimate. It is kind of super annoying, especially if you want the pushback. But if you want, you can like get this little sliver out and you'll still hit the pushback and chomp them. You just can't like push people into a wall with it, right? So yeah. So those are her basic abilities, right? If you hit them with the charge, you're doing extra damage, and then the bite, obviously, as well. And you do get the stun, which is 1.3. So yeah, that's the basics of her kit, right? One thing I wanted to talk about really quick before we ended here was just some utilization with items. So with Charybdis, some really good items, like I talked about, Death's Toll is a really good starter with her. And with this item, I highly recommend doing like an attack speed build with her. to help build up your tide, and because your tide gives you that extra attack speed, and then going into Death's Temper to get that 30% at the end. After doing that, you're going to get the 3.5 basic increased basic attack damage right when you start killing enemies. So that includes like minions, enemy gods, that kind of thing. So if you do this tree where you go into Death's Temper plus a 30% attack speed, she works really well, and not in this build order. Like, but I'm just gonna let you know, like Odysseus Bow is really good on her because every 4th basic attack, right? You do the chain lightning. She procs this a lot faster than most other gods, because of her attack chain, right? You can see 5, like you're getting Odysseus Bow off a lot when you use her basic attacks, right? And because of that, she utilizes it very well. She does a lot of extra damage in team fights, like those sorts of things with it. So although you're doing less damage for the procs, right? You're not doing as much as somebody else would. You're proccing it more often and faster. So it's a pretty good build, and if you're going to go the Odysseus build, you're normally also trying to get like a silver branch in there as well and overcap on your attack speed because of it. So you would build something, here, let me go back in the fountain. The other things that proc well on her is like kin size, right? So we talked about that before. Kins on a basic attack, you deal the physical damage equal to 3% of their health. You will proc this as well. Let me sell this real quick. I don't think you see the death toll procs because I'm at full everything. So you can see the little 12s coming up. That's kin size procs, right? You're doing 30% less, remember, because you have the reduction, but you have more basic attacks. So you're like proccing 5 of them, right? Instead of just like 3 in a basic attack chain. If you're hitting all your basics, right? So it still ends up being like very good. It still ends up being like a really good item, and you're able to proc something like this on her and use it, right? So if you are going, like I said before, if you are going a build with like Odysseus Bow, you're normally going to want to pair that with like Silver Branch and try and overcap on attack speed. Executioners, basic attacks against an enemy reduce your target physical protection. She uses Executioners very well because of that. So you're able to stack this faster, right? Because of her basic attack chain. If you go through one chain, you already have like the full Executioner debuff on these guys. So you'll see, like I start doing more damage because I reduced their protections, right? So you see the first hit on them is like 78 normally, right? It's like 78, but once I get through my full basic attack chain, 89, right? So one full base attack chain, you already have the max stacks of Executioner on them as well, and you're going to proc things. This doesn't do damage to them. This just reduces their physical protection, so you don't need to worry about anything like doing reduced damage with it. It just procs it faster. And then you have things like Ferocious Execution and stuff, which is your next basic attack marks the enemy god for 8 seconds. When you hit them, you're doing the extra... each stack provides 2% increased damage towards the marked target, right? So you're able to stack this really fast with Charybdis because you can stack it up to 10 times, right? So you'll see I'll be going above that 89 really fast. Now I'm at 107, right? Once I've stacked that 10 times, like I'm doing a ton of extra damage to them. See that little X over them, right? That's basically it. And now it's on cooldown. But basically, like the first person you initiate with or you attack, you're going to get this Ferocious Executioner buff. It's really good with 1v1 situations. You proc it really fast with her because you can stack that up really fast with the way her autos works. So it's a good item on her, just in general. And yeah, and I like personally, I like a little bit of like I like the attack speed crit build on her. I'll do things like you can do this and then the Aussie, right? So between Death Toll, Atalantas, and Aussie, you're going to be getting a lot of lifesteal, right? Right off the bat, because this has physical lifesteal built into it. So does Aussie. And then you're going to try and on the back end of this, you're either going to get like a Wind Demon, or if you need like Wind Demon preferably, because of its passive, your critical hits provide you with 10% physical penetration and increased attack speed, right? That'll help you with Silver Branch that you're eventually going to get. Or, plus it has the penetration, right? If they have, if you're versing somebody that's magical damage with a lot of lifesteal, like the Ola runs or the Souls or something like that, I would recommend a Shadow Steel or somebody like Cernanos or something that is building like a Dev Gauntlet Aussie or some weird build where he's just really laying thick on the lifesteal, you can build Shadow Steel. So really this is like the flavor right here. If you need anti-heal, build this. If you don't need anti-heal, build this, right? Or if you're having trouble with like the tanks at this point, you're going to build this. Then you're going to go into Silver Branch, and then you're going to cap it off with like something like Odysseus Bow, if you want, or if you don't, which I know you get the procs and stuff like that, and it's really good. I would actually probably opt for something like the Executioner here, or like a Capsize or something like that at the end of this build. So what you're going to do is you're going to get something like Executioner, right? Because you don't have any glyphs, so you might as well upgrade to Ferocious Executioner. You're already at 2.5 with just like this at like max tide and stuff like that. And when you attack, you're going to have 6 on your Silver Branch. Where you really start shining is once you get that upgrade into Death's Temper. You will see as you kill enemies and the Death's Temper stacks, you will see Silver Branch Bow stacking. Death's Temper and Silver Branch synergize like really, really well. So you see I have 20 stacks on Silver Branch. Once you start getting the stacks here, right, it's increasing your basic attack damage and stuff like that. You already have like that 30%. So get some kills on here, stack Death's Temper, use Silver Branch's passive, a lot of attack speed. You have a lot of pen with this build. You have a lot of pen with this build, right? So you're able to shred through, heal. This is kind of like that weird, and you're getting the crit just kind of like as a flavor on top. You're not getting crit to crit. You're kind of getting the crit to just like, hey, I'm doing a little extra damage and I'm getting that passive from Wind Demon, right? That's really what you want the crit for. And with her basics, you're gonna proc it and get that passive from Wind Demon, right? So when you get that Wind Demon passive, and at the full Death's Temper stacks, right? 10 Death's Temper stacks, 30 Silver Branch Bow stacks. Like, you're doing a lot of damage with this build. You're shredding a lot of people with this. If you don't go Executioner for some reason, Kins would be like a fine decision for you. But I like a build like this on her. Remember, you're pairing basically Atalantis plus either Wind Demon or Shadow Steel. I'll show you kind of what it looks like on Shadow Steel, because with somebody like against Guan, right, he heals a lot. Got a lot of healing on your team. You're missing out on a little bit of pen, but you're getting that anti-heal. He's not going to heal up. And then the other thing about this is with Shadow Steel, you're actually getting a little bit more attack speed right off the bat. Now, with the passive, right, you're going to get the attack speed with Wind Demon. But Shadow Steel does have the 20%, which is nice. And then you still have like the same crit strike chance, but you're getting actually a little bit more physical power in general. So you're really trading pen for like anti-heal. Like, think of it that way when you think between these two. But either way, this build's going to function like almost the same. Like I said before, if you have somebody that has anti-heal on the other team, this will be useful. So that's the build I'm building right now. What is it, like 9.7 or 9.8 or something like that? It's a pretty decent build on her. Very good. But like I said before, you don't need to do the crit stuff. You can do like the Executioner, Kins, like type of thing. Like I said before, if you go Odibo, make sure you're getting Silver Branch with it, right? That's normally where you have to, like, because Odysseus Bow basically does no, it doesn't have like power or anything to it. It's just attack speed plus that, you know, the basic attacks and stuff. But for me, I like to just burst down single targets. So I like builds like this more than the I'm going to do damage to a tank and then do damage to everybody around it. Odysseus Bow is a really good team fight tool, but I think if you like melt a tank with a build like this real fast, you'll be fine. So yeah, that's about it. That's all the advice I have about Charybdis right now. If you guys have any questions or anything, leave them in the comments. I'll try and answer them. Also, if you haven't already, go to our Discord page. I run a server called the Smite Dojo. We play Smite together. We teach people how to play. We do meme builds and just run around like Arena and Joust too. So it's not always Conquest, right? We just like having fun. We'll play Slash or Arena or whatever. We want to play Joust if there's only like 3 people playing at the time or whatever. And then we do in-houses. We'll teach you. So if you want to learn more, we have mentors in our channel, so you can @ mentors and say, hey, does anybody have time, maybe like sometime this week, to do some one-on-one training with me? I'm going to get good at this god or this, and you can get tips and tricks from people that are like diamond masters level, right? Like higher level players that know what they're doing, and then that have like good mechanics and can really teach you. So feel free to join the Discord. Would love to see you guys in there. And then yeah, just have fun, enjoy the community, and hang out. And then the other thing is, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, if you want to see more God videos, I do a video for every single God in Smite, or I am doing a video. I'm only on the C's right now. Eventually I will get to the Z's. That will be the day. But yeah, if you want to see the new content as it rolls out, if you want to learn more about Smite and the gods in there, feel free to subscribe. Click that notification bell, and then you'll get notified when my new videos come out. I've been doing one, like I've been trying to do one every other day or something like that by then, because I want to get through this soon. It's going to take me like maybe a month or two to get through them all, but we will do it. We will prevail. Promise. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And hey, have a great day.